What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Pride of Detroit YouTube channel. I'm Miko, once again joined by Morgan Cannon over at Pride of Detroit. Morgan, what's going on, man?
What's going on, guys? How's everybody doing?
Pretty good, man. All right, so obviously last week we did a film breakdown, which apparently like a lot of you guys really enjoyed. So we're back once again. I know it's a little bit later in the week. It's not our fault though. Like blame NFL Plus, blame the NFL Network for taking so long to get the All 2022, the All 22 up. But we got it. We broke down. We have a couple plays that we cut up, and we want to kind of go over with you guys. Some good, some bad, kind of like we talked about last week. When we do these types of things, we don't want to just focus on the good things the Lions did. We also got to break down some of the negatives. And I think coming off of a loss, this is going to give us a really good opportunity to look at some of the things that the Lions didn't do particularly well and how that translated into the outcome of that game. So without further ado, let's jump into like the first set of plays, Morgan. And specifically with these plays, we want to highlight some of the good things that Jared Goff was doing in this game, because again, it wasn't all bad, right? Like there was some good things to come out of this game from this past Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, minus the pick six, through 2 weeks, I think Goff's played some good football again, coming off of his hot stretch that he played over the Lions 8-2 finish in 2022, right? Like he's still playing good ball. And this first touchdown pass that we're getting into to Josh Reynolds is, epitomizes his confidence that he's playing with right now. Despite, not everything went right against Seattle, but still drilling throws like this, throughout the course of the game. So
Yeah, so let's go ahead and like run this play from the start. So as we can kind of see, well, actually, Morgan, I'll let you talk us through like exactly what's going on this play before I'll just go ahead and run it, and then you can kind of just talk us through what's going on this play.
sounds good. So you got the motion out of the pistol, rips it. Now, first we'll talk about Goff's eyes. So he's looking towards the bunch over here, towards the top of your screen, and he's going to hold his gaze there, most of the play, like as the ball is snapped. So he's going to look over to his left. He's going to hold that safety. I believe it's Quandre Diggs. I can't tell from here. But he holds it until the last second, flips his hips, looks at Josh Reynolds, and it's a rope, man. I was really impressed with this throw.
Yeah, this was one of this early in the game. And I think the Lions did a really good job again of providing some level of misdirection with the route concepts. And like you said, Jared Goff does a really good job, deceiving the safety with his eyes, but then turning right back to Jared Goff, or turning right back to Josh Reynolds, as we can see on this play. And Josh Reynolds does a great job of beating this coverage, pretty early on in his route as well. And then like again, from here, it's just like you said, let it rip.
Yeah, exactly, Miko. Like you saw, when he finally flipped his gaze over to Josh Reynolds, it was too late. Quandre was way over there on the other side, almost the other hash. And like you said with Josh Reynolds, that was a great release. If you see him work off the ball, he gets wide and he knows what kind of leverage he needs in order to give Jared Goff like an area to throw to. So he gets the corner to commit to the outside, and then he breaks inside really quickly and gets to the other side of the DB. So boom, he's inside, and just a really good throw, really good catch by Josh Reynolds too, because he knows he's going to get whacked and still, caught the ball, held on. It was really impressive stuff by both him and Goff.
Yeah, and Diggs is one of those guys, right? Like he's one of those hard-hitting safeties, so it's not like it's just like a love tap. Like you're going to take a serious hit, if Quandre is coming over to provide some level of support in the coverage game. So again, like you said, great play by Goff to be able to recognize and again kind of deceive the coverage with his eyes. Great play by Reynolds to be able to get off the line, and then again, both of them great throw, great catch in that moment. I would probably say like my favorite play from Jared Goff in this game though is this next play that we're going to look at, and it's the throw that he made to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And this play coming the series after the fumble that David Montgomery had. And I'll be honest, Morgan, like for me, this is the throw that I don't think Jared Goff makes, 2 years ago. I don't think he had the confidence to make this kind of throw 2 years ago.
No, and not in the moment too, because the air had kind of been sucked out of the building. As you know, I'm at every home game. So like after the David Montgomery fumble to open up the half, and then Seattle scores and it's 14-14, the air had been kind of sucked out of the building. So then for him to just rip it on St. Brown to St. Brown on this post here is just, it's money, because this is a rope. It's a tight window, and it's a really good catch by St. Brown too, to come up with this ball, because the DB is more or less in phase. St. Brown runs a good route, but the DB is right back on his hip pretty quickly, number 20 there. And yeah, this is just a grown man catch and a grown man throw, and it gets the Lions in business out over midfield. It was a nice throw, man.
And the other thing that I love about, again, I'm sometimes a stickler on Jared Goff as far as placement goes, because again, like that does play a part in a throw being, again, like a good throw or whatever. But when you look at where this ball ends up, like any further outside or any further inside, and this is an incompletion. I mean, if he throws this too far back shoulder to St. Brown, like this is probably a pick. If he throws it too far out like in front of him, this is an incompletion. It's really giving your guy a chance, and it's just like, yo, it's a 50-50 ball, and I'm trusting you to win this ball, this rep in the game.
Yeah, it definitely shows a high degree of trust that Goff has in St. Brown. And then both this throw and the touchdown to Josh Reynolds, the first touchdown to Josh Reynolds, you can tell Goff is recognizing what he's seeing from the defense pre-snap, because he's snapping through his progressions where he wants to go with the football, and he's throwing with anticipation. Like he's leading St. Brown. This is in stride. And then same with the Josh Reynolds one too. He knew the landmark, and he knew where he wanted to get the ball to Josh Reynolds in the seam. So yeah, I'm impressed. Goff's, despite the pick six, which I believe we're getting into, I'm impressed with Goff's play through 2 games.
No, absolutely. And yeah, so again, those are 2 examples of some really good play by Goff. But again, like you said, we got to talk about, the bad as well. And that unfortunately does come in the form of the pick six. So, I mean, if we click over to the pick six, again, this came at like probably the worst time in the game, right? The Lions already are trailing by 3. Definitely needed a drive to respond. And this was not what they were expecting. Again, to happen, following, giving up the lead in the game at that point.
Yeah, this is another. The Ford Field was rocking the whole afternoon, but there was a couple times where everything was just a vacuum, and this is one of them. It went dead quiet. Matt Nelson, just a bad rep, man. He gets caught flat-footed, gets caught reaching. And the defensive end just dips right under him and has a clear path to Goff. And I can't remember. I think this is in our end zone where me and a lot of my friends sit. But there's something of the defensive end gets a hand on either the shoulder or the elbow of Goff, causing that to be such a poor throw. And yeah, just right place, right time for that DB. Similar to the Brian Branch pick six, last week for the Lions. This is just a right place, right time for Seattle, unfortunately for the Lions.
Yeah, and kind of like how you're saying, right? The rhythm of this throw is kind of thrown off by, I believe that's Nwosu that's beating Nelson across, off the edge there.
Mm-hmm.
And because he's able to get such a clean swipe at Goff, again, whether he gets a hand on him or not, definitely messes with the rhythm. Like, Goff is probably expecting, Jahmyr Gibbs to get a little more into that pocket of that zone before he delivers that ball. And again, whether he's touched or he just delivers it too early, this is how you get, 2 players just not on the same page. And yeah, I mean, it's thrown directly to the DB in coverage. And yeah, unfortunately, with these types of plays, there's kind of no recovering as far as being able to tackle them before they, pick up those 6 points.
No, Panay was the only one over there, and he had no chance. Watch from this backside, though. This is where you can kind of see, if it were a little bit better, high def or what, if you will, you can see him get it. I promise he got a hand on him, because we both, me and my friend looked at each other. This is just a bad rep from Matt Nelson, though. If he had just slowed him down even a little bit, that's probably just an incomplete pass. But yeah, it just goes to show what happens when the little things aren't executed properly.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the biggest things that I know I highlighted when breaking down Seattle's tape, against when they were playing against the Rams. It's like if you are not on your P's and Q's, if you're not, paying attention to the little details, things can quickly turn on its head. And I think this is a play that's a great example of that. Um, Unfortunately, this wasn't the only turnover that the Lions had. Like I mentioned with the Amon-Ra St. Brown, grab, there was a front fumble by Montgomery. So we're gonna get into that play in the next set of plays that we're gonna break down. But again, just like with Jared Goff, I don't think it was all bad for Monty, but unfortunately, like this is the play that we're probably gonna focus on the most when we're talking about, his performance from that game.
Yeah, unfortunately for Monty, man, he had a lot of positives in this game too. Prior to the fumble, a lot of tough yards. There was a couple instances when I was breaking down the film in the first half. Guys like Brock Wright were just missing their assignments on. They were going in motion to get a little bit of a block on an edge defender, and he would just whiff. And then Monty's taking contact in the backfield and having to spin forward. So it just got messy for him on a lot of occasions, and we see it again here. Unfortunately, with Sam Laporta this time, who has been blocking well through 2 weeks. I want to point out before we do this, but it wasn't the case on this rep.
Yeah, unfortunately, like that was not the case for this rep in particular. Um, Again, I the Lions were, I think, coming this was like actually coming out of halftime too. And I think that's the other thing that really makes this play like such a game changer in that moment because the Lions had an opportunity to go up 2 scores. And this, the play resulting in this not only turns into points for Seattle, but again, it removes that opportunity for you to extend your lead even further in the game. So let's go ahead and start this back from the beginning. And yeah, Morgan, you did a good job of like calling out Sam Laporta here. Can you kind of explain exactly what goes wrong on this plays for this fumble to actually occur?
Yeah, I just poor execution by Laporta. You'll see when we get back to this view in a second here. He's going to motion over and get to the outside of Matt Nelson at right tackle. And he's going to have to block down on 10. And it just bad rep, shucks him, gets right to Montgomery. And then Montgomery, good on him. He's been fighting for tough yardage. But in those situations, you really want to get that other hand on the ball if you can. And yeah, thing pops out and Panay is not able to jump on it quick enough.
And so in a play like this, right? Like I think if we're looking at Sam Laporta, because again, Sam had a really good game up until this point as well. So unfortunately, like this is a stain on the good game that he had. This is like a technique thing, right? Because I feel like if Sam's a little bit stronger with his hands in this block and doesn't necessarily just try to throw his body at Nwosu, um, he can probably get a better block on this and at least give David Montgomery an opportunity to pick up some yards. But again, if you're just going to try to throw your body in the way, like these experienced defenders are just going to they're just going to move you. Like they're just going to throw their weight at you, move you out the way, and make a play on the ball.
Yeah, exactly. That's eloquently said, Miko, because yeah, you're not gonna he's been blocking well. He's had some, I'm like, okay, like he got a really good block on Nick Bolton last week where he probably rattled Nick Bolton a little bit. That was a tough block, but yeah, you're not gonna be able to do this to most edge defenders in the NFL. So, you got to get your hands in there, you gotta drive your feet and you gotta move people. Like this isn't enough. So let's just watch it one more time. Comes out of his stance, doesn't really shoot his hands, just kind of gets shucked to the side, and yeah, gross.
And kind of,
Rep.
I hate to play it one more time, but I'm going to try and play it from this angle because I think this is another good example of what you were talking about with Brock Wright, though. Like Brock Wright doesn't do any better of a job in this rep, and I think going into this season, like a lot of us expected, Brock Wright to be the tight end that just is better in the blocking game, and then you see this type of stuff. Again, Sam's rep isn't great either, but you look at what Brock Wright does on this play going up against Bobby Wagner, and it's like just completely whiffs, doesn't even get hands on him, like more so lunges at Bobby Wagner. And so, like, again, I think Sam's block, unfortunately, is the one that causes this fumble to happen, but that play was kind of going to be limited when you just start looking at the blocking, outside of Sam as well, where it's just like, okay, enough guys aren't getting a hat on a hat, as some coaches would say.
Yeah, if enough guys don't execute in the run game, ugly things like that can happen. So, like you said there, they both of them didn't do their assignments, and Montgomery paid, and first play out of the half too. I do remember that because I was still getting back to my seat from getting my Diet Coke, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, no way!" And now, yeah, first play of the half.
Yeah, just not what you're expecting, not what you want to see.
No.
Um, but again, like it again to reiterate, something that we talked about, it wasn't all bad. Again, as much as we can kind of highlight that as a bad rep for Sam, he did have his good moments as well. And I think this is a play that's really worth highlighting, to kind of showcase something good that he was able to do in this game as well. Um, as far as like again, his growth as a receiver and somebody that can be a true weapon, especially running after the catch.
Yeah, and Ben Johnson loves utilizing these late releases with his tight ends. So you'll see Laporta there on the top of your screen, split out. I believe that's next to Brock Wright again to the left of Panay. And you can go ahead and roll it, Miko. Yeah, there you go. So motion with Khalif. Laporta's going to get a little bit of a chip in, make himself available to Goff. Good job finding a throwing lane, breaks a tackle. And that's a cheap way to get a nice little chunk of, what do they get? 14, 15 yards here?
Yeah,
It's
and it's
what,
again,
yeah. Go ahead.
and it's something that's like again, this route is ran. It's like what for like 3 yards, and
Mhm.
then the rest of it's him, right? Any other yardage that you get is all Sam, being able to create, after the catch. Love the stiff arm that he puts on Bobby Wagner here because I mean, again, Bobby Wagner's that guy. He's
Yeah.
the type of linebacker that probably puts a lot of fear in a lot of other players. And yeah, Sam again showing growth in his game, um, even this early in his career.
Yeah, like there were a couple catches, there were several blocks. He's really starting to put things together, and it's only, we're headed into week 3 here. So I'm excited to see how far he can come during his rookie year. I know there's a lot on his plate, and I'm sure they're going to continue to increase things, and they're going to look for him to clean up some of the mistakes like he had on the Montgomery fumble. But that's money. If you can present yourself, make yourself an easy target in the middle of the field for Goff, catch the ball and turn around and do another 12 or 13 yards, you're going to become a favorite of your quarterback really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, and again, especially in an offense like this where we know the Lions want to be able to work the middle of the field, they want to be able to work the short yardage so that they can open up those bigger plays down the field. Um, But again, this is a good example of again, yes, Sam has a horrible block, but he also was able to create, and this is just one example of that. I think he had another play early in the first quarter, where I don't even think this play was necessarily designed for him, but it's a rollout by Goff, and he just works with Goff all the way across the field, and Goff is able to find him, and then again, Sam turns upfield, gets a few more yards, um, and that's something that again, like sometimes rookies don't know that, right? They might cut their route short because they're just like, well, this is where I was supposed to run. The quarterback didn't see me. Oh well, like again, that's just again showing growth and maturity, um, as a player.
I know exactly which rep you're talking about. It's a little bit of a scramble drill. Laporta gets to his landmark. He sees Goff breaking out right out of the pocket, and he makes himself available. So yeah, that's exactly what you want to see, man. And he's good at like already finding some soft spots in zone. So yeah, they're going to need him to continue to step up until the Lions pass catchers can be at full go when they get Jameson back and Amon Ra healthy. Knock on wood.
Yeah. And
Knock on
so
wood here.
another guy that again, the I feel like the negatives from this game are mostly again on the turnovers. And I think there's a lot of question marks that could be had again on the defensive line. Morgan, you and I talked about possibly breaking down some D line tape, but it's 2 games, and I want to see if the issues that we're seeing with the D line continue. But one guy that I don't think we can continue to ignore as far as just how much his game has grown, even this early in the season, is Derrick Barnes. Um, I think everybody talks about like, oh, players are going to make the big, leap from year 1 to year 2. Derrick Barnes is proving that maybe it's sometimes year 2 to year 3. And I think in this game, I think there's a number of great plays from him. And we're going to take a look at 2 plays from him specifically in the run game, where I think he's just continuing to show that he's growing as a player.
Yeah, man. I think people forget, and I did too for a little bit there, that Barnes hasn't been playing linebacker that long. He's a converted linebacker at Purdue. And yeah, he's definitely figuring things out. And when you combine the fact that he's figuring things out with his elite athletic traits, this is what you get. And he's making a lot of plays for the Lions at linebacker.
Yeah, and again, these are things that I would even say similar to Jared Goff, right? Like a year ago, he doesn't make these plays, or he overthinks these plays, or maybe he's slow to get started. But I mean, this is just again understanding your cues, understanding your responsibility, and as soon as that gap opens, like he doesn't hesitate. He immediately sees where his gap is, where his responsibility is, and he fills uh again without blinking, it almost feels like.
Yep, he's the in years past he would have had time like issues trusting what his eyes were telling him. And in this instance, man, he reads his keys. There's no false steps. There's no wasted movement. He just gets downhill, like you said, good run fit, breaks down and makes the tackle on Kenneth Walker, who's probably one of the more difficult people to tackle in a hole these days because this guy is shifty. They're playing another
Yeah,
guy this week in Atlanta, though. They need to tackle well this week.
yeah. Kenneth Walker has had a number of plays in this game where, again, whether it was a linebacker or the D line, just made guys look silly. And that's one example of again of Derrick Barnes having a great run fit. Here's another one, and I think this one I think I like even better. Um,
Oh yeah,
because again, like relentlessness and also again understanding and being able to read a play and understanding like where you're needed, right? Like he doesn't
yep,
just follow, where his D linemen are. He sees the hole open up, right here between the guard and the center, and he doesn't over pursue. He stays patient, and then it's just like, oh, this gap opens up. I'm just going to cut back across the face of the center here and try to make a play. And then, like you
yep.
said, Kenneth Walker, yeah, is a little shifty, but dude's just relentless in getting him down.
Yeah, man, this is good stuff right here. He knows Evan Brown's going to try to climb and get to him. Gives him the little, oop, and steps over and gets right underneath him and is able to have the athletic ability to run Kenneth Walker down because Kenneth Walker's, like you said, he's fast, got good quickness, good burst, and gets right there on his hip and brings him down. This is great because it
And
wasn't the
again, this
best rep. Who's that at defensive tackle there? Because that was not a good rep. Is that Benito?
um
It's
yeah, I think
Benito.
we have Levi and Benito, and yeah, right. Benito
That's
gets
what you don't
washed.
want. Yeah, just that's exactly what that guard wants right there. Let's watch that one more time because this is happening often during pass reps too. They just get stay on your feet, man. Stay in the fight.
Yeah. And I mean, again, I guess we can kind of talk about the D line a little bit in this rep because I mean, again, Seattle did some good things in trying to, neutralize the Lions' defensive line, right? You have a double team here, you have a chip here on Benito,
Mm-hmm.
and you
Chip on
know,
Levi.
right, chip on Levi. Aiden's obviously, they're running away from Aiden. You're
Mm-hmm.
getting a seal here by the left tackle on Charles Harris. I believe this is Jackson Smith and Jigba has a block on Branch. So like everything about this play screams like, oh, it's a stretch play, but like or like an inside zone play where Kenneth Walker should be able to cut this back up the middle with this gap that they've created. Not to mention with this chip here, like this guard is going to be moving up to Anzalone. So like everything about this play should work, except for the fact that Derrick Barnes reads it so well and has a great counter for Evan Brown to be able to cut back inside and just stretch this play out a little bit further.
Yeah, and like just lucky that he was a former running back because he's got those elite athletic traits. Like I mentioned earlier, he's fast, he's explosive. That's just a really good play, man. And then it's reasons Barnes is a key ingredient. The way the Lions have been able to slow the running game down so far through 2 weeks. Again, I'm going to knock on wood, so y'all know it's not me.
Yeah, because I
But
was gonna say like
yeah,
I believe he's tied for the most tackles on this team. I believe it's him, CJ. Obviously, CJ is going to be out for a while, but CJ, Jerry Jacobs, and I want to say Anzalone. Like those guys all have 13 tackles each, and so again, I think going into the off season, Derrick Barnes was one of those players that was getting talked up a lot as somebody that was like, hey, he's playing better. He's getting reps with the ones. Um, and I would say after 2 games of the season, he's probably the one guy that was getting hyped up a lot in the offseason that is actually living up to the hype. And that like that doesn't include like Amon-Ra, because like I never doubted that Amon-Ra wasn't going to ball out. But as far as like surprise players that have elevated their game, Derrick Barnes is doing it by far.
Yeah, I guess we should have listened to Kelvin Shepard, huh? When he kept talking about how Derrick Barnes had, put some things together, and we're like, okay, yeah, sure. But then, yeah, they got a nice little rotation here. I noticed throughout the watching the film, there were different periods where they'd have Campbell and Barnes on the field at the same time, which I really like, I will say. They
Mhm.
would have Campbell and Anzalone and Barnes, a little bit of Malcolm sprinkled in. So yeah, good little rotation, and hopefully they eat their Wheaties and come ready to play against Atlanta on Sunday, because they're going to need it.
Yeah, Atlanta's going to be a really interesting matchup as far as what they decide to do with their linebackers. And again, I guess we can have like a small little preview since we're talking about Derrick Barnes. Like their linebacker play is going to be crucial for this matchup, in my opinion. The ability to have linebackers that can both read and react, like Derrick Barnes showed in the 2 clips that we showed, but also like have that ability to cover, because they're going to use Bijan in a number of different ways. We also can't forget about Tyler Algier. Like he's also a really explosive back for them. So I do believe that, and not to mention Kyle Pitts. Like there's a lot of weapons that these linebackers are going to have to take account of. Um, I don't know how you feel personally, but like this is a game where I would like to see Jack in there a little bit more, just because I think he has a little more to him athletically when it comes down to it, especially like in coverage.
For sure, man. I mean, Atlanta, to your points, is a physical team. They want to pound on you. Bijan is a runner that all 11 players have to be sound on defense, because, backside, you have to be really sound, because he'll cut that thing back and look for the crease and like look for the wall. So backside has to be sound. You got to tackle well. You got to wrap up. So I agree with you. I would love to see a good, healthy portion of Campbell and Barnes, just because those are your guys who can really, run sideline to sideline, and they're your thumpers, in terms of physicality. I like Anzalone. He's played well the last 2 years. But yeah, this might be a game where you have Jack and Barnes in there, and you ask them to get downhill and crack some heads, because Atlanta's going to come with it, man. They mix it up. They're like
Yeah.
the Lions. They'll run some gap scheme. They want to get downhill on you, but then they can do some stretch zone stuff with Bijan and allow him to make plays with his just his rare traits.
Yeah, Morgan, I don't know. I might have to have you back on, because so last week, obviously, guys, you know that I did a film breakdown of the Seahawks as far as what they did really well. And so I'm planning on doing the same thing with the Falcons, as kind of why we're talking about it. But uh that's pretty much going to do it for this video. Look forward to another video where, like I said, I might have Morgan back on to kind of help me break down the Falcons and just some of the things they do well, both offensively and defensively, and how the Lions need to really attack them. But that's going to do it for this video. These are some of the most impactful plays that we kind of saw. Again, I know there's going to be a lot of questions about the secondary. I know there's going to be questions about the defensive line. If things continue to trend that way, maybe me and Morgan will come back and we'll do a deep dive on both of those units and just kind of talk about like what we're seeing and maybe why things aren't working the way we thought they would going into the season. But Morgan, like always, man, I appreciate you taking the time, bringing so much knowledge, and being able to go through, the film like this. Also, guys, be sure to go check out any of the content that Morgan's putting out over on the Pride of Detroit website. You can easily find that on the site. We're always uploading new content over there. And last but not least, if you guys are looking to subscribe to this channel, if you've never subscribed before, please be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That way you can be notified every time we upload any new content to the channel. But with all that said, I'm Miko. That's Morgan. Appreciate you guys checking us out, and we'll see you guys in the next video.